Hello friends, welcome to my channel Mad Simply Learn. Today we are going to discuss yet another very important topic known as proficiency testing or EQA, that is external quality assessment. So let's begin with a brief introduction about the topic. Proficiency testing is a method for evaluating the accuracy and reliability of laboratories' test results by means of an external agency, which is also known as PT provider. Okay. Now, proficiency testing is also known as EQA or external quality assessment. It is one of the types of EQA. There are other types of external quality assessment like inter-lab comparison, split sampling, etc. But in this video, we are going to discuss only about proficiency testing. Now, a brief historical aspect. This proficiency testing began in early 20th century as simple inter-laboratory comparisons, which laid the foundation for contemporary programs which are running nowadays, which have advanced technologies and standard protocols. And what were the major milestones in the development of these PT programs? Number one, establishment of ISO standards in the 2000s marked a significant advancement in harmonizing the global practices. Okay. Second important milestone was development of automated systems. And finally, integration of these programs with the laboratory's quality management system. So they were the major milestones which were responsible for the evolution of PT programs. Now coming to the objectives of a PT program. Why we should enroll in a PT program? What is its significance? Number one, it helps in assessment of laboratories' analytical quality and reliability of the results which the lab is producing or generating. Okay. Second important objective or importance of this PT program is it increases the credibility among the users towards the lab performance. And who are the users? Users are either the patients or the clinicians who are requesting those tests. Third important objective or importance is it is also the requirement as per the global standards. For example, ISO 15189 has made it mandatory for a lab to participate in the EQAS program. Also, this PT program helps in identification of any potential problems in testing and thus take corrective actions to remove them and finally evaluate the effectiveness of those corrective actions. And lastly, it shows the commitment of a lab towards continuous improvement and quality. So these are the major objectives of a proficiency testing program. Now let's compare IQC with EQAS or the PT program. First of all, IQC is frequency. IQC is generally run daily or more frequently, sometimes thrice daily or twice daily if it is a large lab. while PT samples are run periodically, generally once in a month. Second important difference is target value. Target value is immediately known to the laboratory in case of EQC, while for PT the target value is unknown initially. Only when the report is provided by the provider, then only we get the target value. Third important thing is result availability is immediate. It helps in the release of the patient reports. While EQA results are available later, it has nothing to do with the release of reports. It helps us in assessing the long-term accuracy and bias in the results. While IQC assess mainly the precision, EQAS or PT assess accuracy, precision and bias. Finally, comparison by the IQCs within the laboratory, while comparison by a PT program is with other participating laboratories. So now let's see some of the major EQAS providers or the PT providers. First of all, the globally acceptable providers or the programs include EQAS, which is a UK-based program, BioRed EQAS, and Clinical Association of Pathologists EQAS program. These organizations offer comprehensive schemes to ensure the global standards in the lab testing. Indian contributors in India, EQAS providers are CMC Vellore, RML Lucknow, Metropolis Healthcare, and AIMS. And all these EQAS providers, they operate under ISO standard 17043, ensuring reliability as well as standardization in the laboratory testing worldwide. Now let's see what are the various considerations which should be kept in mind when choosing the EQAS program or when we decide to enroll in a particular EQAS program. First consideration is consideration of the lab's scope of test. Whenever a lab is enrolling in a program, it should see that tests in its scope are there in that program or not. Secondly, number of participants is also another important criteria. In a EQAS program, if we are enrolling, we should see that sufficient number of participants are there or not. Third important factor is the cost. Depending upon the affordability, only the lab should choose the EQAS program. Then reputation is also very important. Lab should enroll in that particular program only which is having a good reputation and accepted globally. Then logistical feasibility. This means that we should enroll in a program in which we can be able to get the samples in a proper manner and on time. Finally, our decision to enroll in a program should align with our quality improvement or the quality management policy as well as the accreditation goals. Now let us see what are the various steps involved in a PT program. So after we enroll in a PT program, the first step is the PT provider or the EQA provider will circulate a set of samples to the participating laboratory. Okay. Then after receiving the sample, each participant laboratory will analyze that sample just like a patient sample. After the analysis of the sample, the results are entered nowadays on the online portals which are provided by the PT provider for evaluation. And there is a timeline for submission of these results. Once the results are submitted, the EQAS provider will do the statistical analysis, generate a target value of each and every analyte, and then send you the report. After receiving the report, result interpretation is done, and if it is not acceptable for any particular analyte, then corrective action is taken. So it PT program ultimately leads to corrective action. Okay, what are the points we should keep in mind when we run a EQAS sample? First of all, the laboratory shall have a documented procedure for running the EQAS sample. Second important point we should keep in mind is reconstitution should be done carefully as per the PT provider's instructions, because it will help us in avoiding the reconstitution errors. Third important point is we should run these EQA sample or the PT sample just like routine samples. No special treatment to be given to these samples. Then only the correct analysis of our results can be done. Okay. Then it should be run by the same people who are routinely doing tests on the equipment. No special person should be appointed to carry out the EQAS sample. Also, we should avoid resorting to actions like sending our EQAS sample to some other labs and then filing those reports as our own reports. This is a malpractice. This will never help us know the exact problems in our laboratory, and thus will not improve the quality of our laboratory. Also, we should not discuss the result with any other participant labs, because it will lead to submission of biased results or the manipulated results. Then after this, we should have another important things which should be kept in mind while submitting these results. Number one, we should follow the guidelines which are there for submission when we are submitting the EQAS data. Like, there should be detailed documentation of methods and conditions during testing to ensure accurate analysis. So we should configure our program in a very proper and accurate manner, then only we can get the correct analysis. Timelines and accuracy. We should submit the results in a timely and accurate manner, because if we do not submit the result, it can affect the evaluation process, leading to inaccurate assessment. So data submission, which is another very important step in a PT program, should be very carefully done. All the requirements should be fulfilled and results should be entered timely and accurately. After discussing the various points which should be kept while submitting the result, the next step is analysis, which is done by the PT provider. So what common statistical methods are used by them for analysis of these results? Number one is mean and standard deviation, which are very basic statistical measures to evaluate the performance of labs. They tells us about the closeness to the expected results. Okay. Second important statistical method is Z-score. Z-score helps identify the deviation from the mean, and it is very critical in assessing the lab's performance in relation to its peers which are in the same category. And lastly, regression analysis. Regression methods are certain graphical presentations which helps in identifying the trends or shifts and the future outcome of our laboratory. Now let's see the interpretation of the report which is provided by the EQAS provider or the PT provider. This is the type of report which is provided by the EQAS provider. Here we can see there are three groups. One is mode, method and peer group. What all these three terms mean, let's discuss them. First, peer group. Peers are those labs which have the same method, reagent and instrument. Means they are those labs which have the method, reagent as well as instrument. All the three things are same. So what this comparison ensures precision by comparing performance with similarly equipped labs. Second important term is method group. This method group is with the same method but different instrument. So this group helps in understanding how methodology is impacting the value of that particular analyte. And third is the mode group. Mode group is the most broader category in which there are the analyte only is the same, rest method as well as the equipment is different. Okay, so these are the three. Continuing the interpretation of the results further, this is the sample summary report in which we can see that analytes are seen on the left hand side. This result is the result submitted by the lab, and what mean value is, it is considered as the target value, and Z score is the score on which we can assess whether our analyte is in acceptable category or it is in warning category or it is in unacceptable category. So what is this? How this Z score is calculated? It is nothing but result, that is our value, minus target value, that is mean, upon standard deviation. And the criteria is, if Z score is less than 2, then it is considered as acceptable. If it is between 2 to 3, it is a warning or acceptable with caution. Means there is some problem, but it is still a warning. Here we can see in the HDL there is an inverted yellow triangle which is showing that the Z score here is between 2 to 3. So it is a warning. If it is more than, if the Z score is more than 3, then it is considered as unacceptable and corrective action needs to be taken in that scenario by identification of the problem by doing the root cause analysis. So finally, what are the challenges for both the providers as well as the participating laboratories? First challenge is logistics and coordination. This means that sending the samples on time in proper manner to the participant laboratories by the PT providers is a very challenging task because there is variability of resources and certain political barriers which leads to complications, and this is especially in the global program where the samples have to be imported from some other country. Okay. Second important challenge for both the provider as well as the laboratory is the interpretation of data. Nowadays, there are diverse testing methodologies, so creating a meaningful report is a challenge for the provider, and analyzing that report in a proper manner is a challenge for the participant laboratory. And finally, the cost constraints. Smaller labs especially have limited revenue, so they cannot afford to engage in these comprehensive programs. Thus, it is a challenge for them as it leads to compromising the quality of the laboratory. So friends, this was all about PT proficiency testing or EQA. I hope you liked the video. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe my channel.